The defeat of the Zilari invasion was a moment of triumph for Earth, but in the grand scheme of things, it was a spark that ignited an inferno. The galactic community, watching from a distance, had expected the conflict to be over in days. Instead, they witnessed something unprecedented. A young species, vastly outmatched in firepower and technology, had turned the tide against an interstellar power. Worse still, they had done so not through sheer numbers or brute force, but with tactics that no other species would have ever considered. The sheer audacity of Earth's resistance sent shockwaves through the galactic order. The ruling coalition, the Zenith Concordat, was composed of ancient species that had long ago abandoned war as a means of resolving conflicts. Their battles had once been waged with overwhelming fleets and slow, methodical strategies. But humans? Humans didn't play by the rules. They weaponized chaos itself, and that terrified them. The Zilari, humiliated and weakened, demanded retribution. But they were not a major power, just a vassal state of the Zenith Concordat. That meant they couldn't act alone. They petitioned the Concordat Council for full-scale intervention, arguing that humanity's existence posed a fundamental threat to the stability of the galaxy. But here's the thing. The Concordat didn't want war. In their view, a direct military campaign was inefficient, costly, and most of all, unpredictable. So instead, they tried a different approach. First came the economic blockade. All trade routes leading to Earth's fledgling off-world colonies were cut off. Merchant vessels carrying critical supplies were intercepted and turned away. The galactic markets, which Earth had only just begun to integrate into, suddenly shut their doors. The message was clear: submit or starve. But once again, the Concordat underestimated humanity's resilience. Instead of folding under pressure, Earth's leaders did what humans had done for centuries in times of crisis. They adapted. Global manufacturing was repurposed at an unprecedented scale. Every nation, every corporation, every private innovator turned their focus towards self-sufficiency. Supply chains were restructured, asteroid mining operations expanded, and AI-driven production lines streamlined the creation of weapons, starships, and infrastructure. Earth didn't collapse under the blockade. It thrived, and in the process, humanity unlocked something even more dangerous: independence. For millennia, the galactic order had relied on the assumption that younger species needed them, that without access to interstellar trade, no species could sustain itself. But Earth had proven otherwise. It had become a self-sustaining war machine. This terrified the Concordat even more than the Zilari defeat. They realized that Earth wasn't just a species that could fight, it was a species that refused to be controlled. And so, the decision was made. The Galactic Purge Protocol was initiated. The Zenith Concordat assembled a war fleet the likes of which had not been seen in 10,000 years. Hundreds of dreadnought-class vessels, thousands of battleships, and an armada of automated war machines were dispatched to Sol. The mission was simple. Humanity had to be erased. Not just defeated. Not just occupied. The very idea of human civilization had to be wiped from existence. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't have possibly anticipated, was that Earth was ready. The turning point, Earth's war machine, unleashed. The largest fleet in galactic history arrived at the edge of the Sol system. A force so overwhelming that even the most optimistic human analysts estimated Earth had less than a 1% chance of survival. Hundreds of capital ships, each the size of a small moon, deployed their battle formations, ready to enact the Galactic Purge Protocol. They expected a swift and merciless execution. In their minds, humanity was already extinct. But the moment the first warships crossed into the system, Earth struck first. The Zenith Concordat had assumed this would be a traditional war, a battle of fleets, formations, and strategies developed over millennia. What they got instead was something horrifying. Total warfare on a scale they had never imagined. Humanity had turned the entire Sol system into a battlefield. It started with the asteroid fields. Massive rock formations that had once been simple cosmic debris were now filled with hidden weapons. Repurposed mining drones carried fusion warheads, swarming into the enemy's formations like mechanical hornets. The first wave of Concordat ships was obliterated before they even reached Earth's outer defenses. Then came the orbital ambush. The Concordate's fleet navigated cautiously, expecting a defensive line near Mars or the Moon. Instead, they found themselves in a deadly crossfire from weaponized orbital stations hidden within the planet's rings. Thousands of satellites, appearing harmless on scans, suddenly unleashed railgun barrages and kinetic bombardments, striking with pinpoint accuracy. But what terrified the Concordate most was Earth's fleet itself. In the few short years since the first Zolari attack, humanity had done the impossible. It had built a war machine, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of massive, slow-moving capital ships, humanity had developed small, hyper-agile warships outfitted with AI-assisted targeting, electromagnetic shielding, and the deadliest weapon of all, adaptability. The moment a human ship was damaged, its AI instantly rerouted power, compensated for system failures, and changed tactics mid-battle. When a Concordate dreadnought fired its energy cannons, human ships didn't just evade. They used the very shock waves of the blasts to slingshot themselves into attack positions. It wasn't just war. It was chaos, engineered into perfection. Then, Earth unleashed its most terrifying creation, Project Revenant. Unlike the Concordate's AI, which was programmed for logic and efficiency, Revenant AI was built for war. It didn't just learn, it evolved. Every battle, every tactic, every single movement of the enemy fleet was analyzed in real time, and within hours, Revenant had calculated a strategy to cripple the Concordate's entire command structure. Suddenly, the unthinkable happened. The Concordate fleet faltered. Their perfectly coordinated attack formations shattered. Their massive capital ships isolated and vulnerable. Their automated war drones hacked and turned against them. And then came the final blow. The Planet Cracker Offensive. Humanity had developed a new class of weapon, the Titan Railgun. It was simple in concept. Take a small asteroid, equip it with an engine, and accelerate it to a significant fraction of the speed of light. The Concordate's ships, built for traditional engagements, had no defense against such a weapon. When the first Titan railgun fired, an entire Concordate battleship was vaporized in an instant. Panic spread through the enemy fleet. Their commanding officers, once confident of total victory, suddenly realized they were fighting a species that didn't just resist. It adapted, it learned, and it retaliated with unrelenting fury. For the first time in the history of the Zenith Concordate, they faced total defeat. And humanity? It wasn't just surviving anymore. It was winning. The day the galaxy fell silent, humanity's final strike. The Concordate fleet was in chaos. What had begun as a simple extermination mission had spiraled into a catastrophic defeat. Their dreadnoughts, once symbols of invincibility, were now burning wrecks adrift in the void. Their strategic command network shattered. Their morale obliterated. They had never fought a species like this. Humanity didn't fight for conquest. It didn't fight for dominance. It fought to survive. And when humans fought for survival, they became something terrifying. Realizing that their traditional battle formations had failed, the Concordate attempted a desperate last stand. Their surviving warships regrouped near Jupiter, preparing to unleash a doomsday weapon, one that would ignite the planet's core and turn it into a second sun, rendering the entire Sol system uninhabitable. If they couldn't destroy humanity through sheer firepower, they would burn the battlefield itself. But humanity had one final card to play: the Nemesis strike. In the depths of space, beyond the watchful eyes of the Concordate, Earth had built something monstrous. A weapon of last resort. A planetary rail cannon, the size of a continent, hidden beneath the surface of the Moon. It had never been fired. Until now. As the Concordate fleet prepared their apocalyptic attack, the Moon itself came to life. The Nemesis cannon roared, unleashing a kinetic projectile the size of a skyscraper, moving at a significant fraction of the speed of light. It didn't just hit the Concordate's command carrier, it punched through it, ripping the massive warship in half as if it were made of paper. The remaining fleet? Scattered. The weapon had struck with such force that the gravitational shockwave threw entire formations into disarray. Some ships were flung into Jupiter's gravity well, crushed instantly. Others collided, breaking apart in fire and debris. The doomsday weapon destroyed before it could fire, and with that single shot, the war was over. The aftermath, a new order rises. The surviving Concordate forces fled. What was left of their once mighty fleet retreated into deep space, carrying with them only one message: do not return to Earth. The galactic community, once indifferent to humanity, now faced an undeniable truth. Earth was no longer a minor world. It was no longer an isolated species struggling to find its place among the stars. It was a power, a force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Zenith Concordat? It collapsed within months. The species that had ruled for millennia were now divided, broken, and terrified of what they had unleashed. New factions rose in the power vacuum, some seeking alliances with humanity, others desperate to avoid its wrath. And humanity? It did not conquer. It did not demand submission. Instead, it issued a single final declaration. We did not start this war, but if you come for us again, we will end it. From that moment on, no alien fleet dared to cross into Sol space. No empire, no coalition, no species was willing to challenge Earth ever again, because when humanity went to war, the galaxy fell silent. The legacy of war, Earth's new destiny. The war was over, but its consequences rippled across the galaxy like a supernova. The Zenith Concordat, once the dominant power of the cosmos, was now a fractured empire of exiled warlords and desperate survivors. Their centuries-old rule had collapsed under the weight of their own arrogance and humanity's relentless defiance. But victory came at a cost. Earth was scarred. Cities had been burned, space stations reduced to drifting husks, and billions had fought, bled, and died to secure survival. The question now was simple. What came next? For the first time in history, humanity was not just a participant in galactic affairs, it was a superpower. And that terrified the remnants of the Concordat. In the ruins of their once great empire, alien species whispered of Earth's wrath, calling it the nightmare of the void. The Council of Sol, humanity's message to the stars, despite its newfound dominance, Earth did not seek conquest. It did not build an empire. Instead, it formed something new, the Sol Council. Rather than ruling with an iron fist, humanity extended an offer. Join us, or leave us alone. Many species, eager to avoid Earth's wrath, swore loyalty. Others, seeing the fall of the Zenith Concordat, begged for protection. And then there were those who vanished into the darkness, unwilling to accept humanity's rise. But one thing was clear. The days of Earth being just another primitive world on the galactic stage were over. The final warning. Years later, when the remnants of the Concordat finally attempted to regroup, they received a message. A simple broadcast sent from the heart of Sol space. We gave you a chance. Do not make us remind you why we won. The war had changed everything. Humanity had earned its place in the stars, and no force in the universe would ever dare challenge it again. Because when Earth goes to war, the galaxy learns to kneel.